and gentlemen, boys and girls, dying time is here. That's right, we're talking Black Phone 2 on Kill by Kill. Well, greetings and salutations, Internet. It's your old pal, Patrick Hampton, coming to you once again from Camp Alpine Lake. This is the Kill by Kill podcast, where we're dedicated to celebrating the least discussed component of any horror film, the characters. So we're going to unpack all the goriest details of 2025's Black Phone 2 in the hopes that a far too young camper's untimely end is just the beginning of the jokes we might make at their expense. Oh no, it happened again. Of course, there's only one person I trust that if I die at a very untimely age, I'll be able to make a phone call to her that will be extremely cryptic. The one, the only, Gena Radcliffe. How are you doing today, Gena?
And you know I'll accept that phone call because it's you. And I don't like talking on the phone, but you are of an exclusively small number of people that I will do that with.
Well, I think it helps that for 10 years now, we have been talking without really seeing one another for
pretty much. Yeah. I mean, like this is like, back when we were teenagers and, you just hung out on the phone talking to people for like hours at a time.
I don't know that I did that as a teen. I don't think people enjoyed talking with me on the phone.
Oh, no.
Hey, listen, my teen years were complicated.
Yeah, I mean, mine didn't really get started till like my late teens, but then, I do, recall some moments of watching, Beverly Hills 90210 on the phone and kind of just, both enjoying it and MST3King at the same time. So the roots were planted early.
That was definitely one of the ways that Becky and I bonded, is we had a habit of watching pageants, beauty pageants, and talking about them on the phone and being rude about things, not making it personal, but being very rude. we enjoyed snarking beauty pageants. Let's put it that way.
That's a good way to bring people together.
It's true. So let's get into this now. The Black Phone just came out last year. Now we're still recording this in 2025. We're a little bit ahead, but it came out just last year, and we had just reviewed the first one. And I think the way we came out of that is that I was very high on it, and you were. It's fine plus.
Yeah.
Has that changed for Black Phone 2, Gena?
No. It's fine plus to me.
Yeah. I was right there with you, honestly. As I was watching the movie, I was enjoying myself. I think I was on a slightly higher than you thing. And then it just walloped me. And it just became this very emotional thing where akin to, the only way I can put it is akin to the Evil Dead screening I had last year around the same time, where I became very emotionally invested in these characters and this particular journey. And I found it highly cathartic. And I'm like, I think this is a me thing here. What's happening?
I will say that one of the things I did genuinely appreciate is I did like the emotional beats in it.
Right.
I liked that how Finney, our hero, is struggling with the trauma that he experienced in the first movie. I like that their dad has shown some growth. Yeah. He's not drinking anymore. He's trying to be a good dad. Mm-hmm. And the kids are are very wary around him, which I think is very realistic. When you grow up with an abusive parent and they suddenly decide that they're going to try to be a better parent, it takes a while for for the kids to be like, okay, maybe you're serious about this. Maybe this is going to stick this time.
Sure.
What I wasn't really into was just the lore building. I just was like, I like more of the more realistically grounded aspects of it.
Yeah, I think it is interesting. Certainly, the lore building component of it, I was on shaky ground with, but I have to say, a lot of the execution I was absolutely on board for. There's a lot going on here that I would almost compare this to Nightmare on Elm Street 4 and 5. There's a lot of overlap in terms of incidental plot, and this manages to do that in a more concrete and thoughtful manner that I genuinely appreciated. I like that essentially the same, weirdly enough, a lot of the same rules apply to the first movie as the second movie. There's just an escalation of where the grabber exists, and that his battery source in the first movie was more emotional. And now his battery source of these kids that he has killed in the past are his entryway back into our reality. And I'm like, hey, that's not a bad Stephen King-esque SKU style idea.
No, but where it lost me a little bit was, and I guess we should put a spoiler, because again, this is a pretty new-ish movie. I think it came out in October, maybe. Mm-hmm. I kind of almost groaned out loud when it was revealed that he actually killed Finney's mother. Yeah. And I'm like. No, we don't need to do that, because now it's like, okay, so was his just choosing Finney as a victim later to kidnap, was that random, or did he actually know who he was the whole time?
I don't think he knew who he was the whole time. This is where it kind of gets into that, in Stephen King universe terms, that Finn, Gwen, and the people in their neighborhood are, in a sense, a loosely formed quartet. And that is formed with the initial incident of that first kid being grabbed and Finn and Gwen's mom seeing this in a remote viewing dream and following that person. Once the grabber takes that and says, oh, I'm going to set this person up, he's essentially ticked his own ticket. This is going to come back around. He is that classic, horror fiction villain who starts an action and it comes right back around him. Now, just because that works for me on an intellectual and emotional level, I can absolutely understand it bouncing on any other person, because I think it's a long leap to take to get from one to the other. If you take it and you reach it, it's satisfying. And if you don't, it might pull the rug out from underneath. Yeah, I completely understand that.
But I do feel that Derrickson and Cargill really care about these characters.
Yes.
And I think that comes through very strongly and makes it a more engaging experience, so that you're not like focusing too much on plot holes or whatever, tiresome conversation, we keep, not we, you and I, just we, the horror community in general, keep, going around and around and around about, does it matter if this doesn't add up entirely, if you still get an emotional sense out of it?
Right.
So, but yeah, so, for that aspect of it, yeah, I think this is a very well done. I mean, I guess you can call it a franchise now.
It's achieved that level to a degree. I mean, certainly this one did not make as much money as the first one, but it also made plenty of money considering its budget. So whether or not they've said they don't want to continue unless they keep coming up with ideas that elevate it. They just don't want to make more to make more.
Yeah, I mean, I was a little bit skeptical that he just sort of freezes underwater, and I'm like, they're kind of leaving it open where he could be brought back in some way. I see, if I was one of those kids, I would have just like chopped him to like 7 or 8 pieces or so.
Yes, I mean, technically he is in several pieces because one of them breaks off. I think what they've set up for with him in particular is if he has a grouping of former victims somewhere, that is an entry point. All he has to do is Freddy Krueger style somehow escape hell. And then once he has that battery near him for those victims, he can access our reality in some way, shape, or form. Does that make sense? No. I don't come to black phone movies for quote unquote sense.
No, I mean, you're starting on the premise of that, dead people can call you on the phone and, give you information on how to escape from captivity.
Right. And to a certain degree, what I enjoy about this one was it transferred the ticking clock element from Finn, who in the first movie has been captured and has been kept in a basement. And he has this one tie, this thin level of, supernatural ability. It's just a shade for him. The shine is very light as far as Finn is concerned. Whereas Gwen has a ton of shine. And so in this movie, it's more Finn dealing with the emotional and, the traumatic repercussions of what he's gone through and how that's changed him as a person. Not all entirely for the better, which is understandable. And Gwen, who, while she has been through trauma to a certain degree, this is much more directed at her specifically. She is the target here. And I think the Grabber really underestimates the sort of supernatural milieu he's decided to participate in here. And where I immediately Gena, I stood up and pointed at the screen. That's what I'm looking for. When Gwen's like, you think this is one-sided. I can do shit too. And all of a sudden, this thing clicked up a level as far as I'm concerned. And I started bawling. And I can't deny that genuine emotional reaction to this thing. So I will grant you, I doubt that is everyone's, but I would be lying if I did not tell people that is what happened to me.
Well, I think that this is, comes back down to what is probably at this point becoming tiresome for some listeners of our show.
Right.
Yes. The Terrifier aspect or lack thereof. Like, here's something you need to know going into the Black Phone 2. And again, this is a huge spoiler. None of these characters die.
Right.
You've got a lot of new characters. You've got this character, Ernesto. Is that the kid from the first movie's brother?
Yes, and it's the same actor.
Is it the same actor?
Same actor?
I had no idea. Okay.
I didn't know this until I looked it up afterwards.
That's actually kind of clever.
But I think it is genuinely clever. Like they didn't really leave someone behind. They found a new role for them.
And it was and it's, I think it's kind of amusing because, Robin from the first one was kind of this tough kid with like the bandana and Ernesto's kind of nerdy. And so, I had no idea. That's funny. So you've got Ernesto. You've got this camp supervisor. You've got these Jesus freak couples. Some of them get roughed up, but none of them get killed. They all make it to the end of the movie. Yeah. The only kills you see are in flashback.
Yeah.
And now, mind you, they're gruesome.
They are horrifically gruesome.
And they made all the more so the fact they're children.
Right.
But that is the extent of the violence you see, that you see the grabber inflict on anyone. This is all very emotionally driven.
Yeah.
So if that's not your cup of tea, you're not going to I'm not saying that's not the problem I had with it. I liked that part of it, but I do think that some of the lore building did feel a little bit of throwing things at the wall and seeing what sticks.
Yes, I do think it is throwing something at the wall to see what sticks, but considering the milieu, the sort of soup that is established in the first movie, it already has the supernatural attached to it. Ghosts exist. People are remote viewing. Like there are components of this that are already in play. So this isn't that far afield. Where I do think people are going to they will immediately bounce out of this is whether or not you can get on board with this being essentially a Nightmare on Elm Street movie, in the sense that the grabber can only really get you for a certain portion of this movie while you are asleep, or at least when Gwen the conduit is asleep. Then he can harm other people. She's a doorway. It goes both ways when she's asleep. She just opens up essentially a portal to the supernatural. So yeah, that I think people are going to go, well, this is not my Freddy. I will say this is better than half the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise.
Oh yeah, I will 100% agree with you there. Yeah, absolutely.
And that's just one of those. And I do think that people who like the jokier side of Freddy, and listen, I'm not going to tell you what to like and what not to like, but people who enjoy that component of it will probably find themselves kind of pushing back against this. But when we had all those issues with like the remake of the Not Your Daddy syndrome of Freddy Krueger, where it's like, oh, this time he's a child molester. And you're like, is that supposed to be scarier? Because it's grosser, but I don't think it's scarier. And if that's your idea of how we're going to up the deal here, you should have given that another pass. And this movie doesn't so much worry about outdoing Freddy Krueger in any particular way, shape, or form. It's simply playing in some of the same sandbox, as it were, just as the first movie, to a certain degree, plays in the same sandbox as other telepathy sort of adjacent movies that we've covered over the years.
Right.
I think the other thing that might bounce for some people is that I think this will read like what's become the standard, quote, horror film that's actually about trauma flick for a fair amount of viewers. And I don't believe that Black Phone 2 will win over swaths of people who weren't grabbed, if not to put too fine a point on it, by the first movie. But I think the movie's deliberate lean into Krueger territory is bound to be that thing that you either get on board for or is simply a bridge too far. And I can't police that for you. I do think it's whether or not you care about Finn and Gwen going forward, that it either works enough for you where you're like, I like the ride, but it's not life-changing, or to me, where I was like, holy shit, this just ratcheted up the list of my year end. And I did not think that this was possible. I was astounded by how much it genuinely affected me. Oh, Gena, it's a rough fucking time.
Yeah, no, it's like, everybody's a raw nerve right now.
Yeah.
So certain things are going to hit you in ways you're not going to expect. And again, I really found myself more than anything else just sort of, I really felt for the dad because, God bless him, he's trying.
He is.
But I mean, there's certainly with Finney, you get the sense that they may already be past the point of no return. Like they're very wary of each other, and it's it makes but that feels very realistic. You can't just instantly forgive your abuser.
Yeah.
Even if they, whether it's your parent or your partner or whoever, they could say, I'm going to change, and they could show signs of changing, like a genuine commitment to changing, but you can't turn it off and on like a faucet.
Yeah.
But you have to work on yourself too.
Yes.
Nobody does selling better than Shopify. Shopify is the home of the #1 checkout on the planet. And the not-so-secret secret, with Shop Pay that boosts conversions up to 50%, meaning way less carts go abandoned and way more sales going through. So if you're into growing your business, your commerce platform better be ready to sell wherever your customers are scrolling or strolling. On the web, in your store, in their feed, and everywhere in between. Businesses that sell more, sell on Shopify. Upgrade your business and get the same checkout that Skims uses. Sign up for your $1 per month trial period for 3 months at shopify.com/Westwood1, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/Westwood1 to upgrade your selling today. Shopify.com/Westwood1.
But we keep meeting people who've had to make changes in their lives, and you wonder whether or not they can live up to their stated goal of being a changed person. And I was particularly grabbed initially by Damien Bashir's Armando, or Mondo as they refer to him through the majority of the movie, who's someone who went to jail, has a troubled past, wants to be a better person, and he does that by putting actions in front of his words, right? He does what he asks other people to do. And there are moments in this where people confront the supernatural and other people just put their hands up and go, no, this is demonic. This is wrong. This is bad. And Mondo is someone like, well, if this helps us find these 3 very real murdered children, this thing has been hanging over my life this entire time. I don't know why I wouldn't go out of my way to try to find them and give their parents some form of relief, answers that they were desperately seeking. He puts that action forward. And I was like, you know what? I enjoy this theme that goes through multiple characters where they're like, it's not enough to say I'm changed. You have to put actions ahead of those words.
Well, what I think is interesting with these characters, Mondo and then this husband and wife couple.
Yeah.
Now, this is a Christian camp. So, but, they're coming at this situation in 2 very different manners. As you say, Mondo is very action motivated. Mm-hmm. He wants to help. He's open to all ideas on how to solve this problem, whether the immediate problem is, what the supernatural things that Gwen is experiencing, or finding the bodies of these missing children. And then you have this couple who, the minute Gwen swears at them, they can't be bothered. They don't want to help her.
Yeah. They've decided who she is. Right.
They've made a 10-second judgment call about this child.
Yeah.
She's what, like 15 maybe?
Probably, yeah.
And they immediately shut down any possibility they're going to help her with her situation. And it is very much a sort of, very pointed observation of the type of Christians there are. There are people who are actually willing to help, and others that are only willing to help if you are if you abide by a very strict set of guidelines.
Yeah, Barb just makes this very specific accusation at Gwen, And she's unmoved, even when she sees someone spin through the air with blood coming out of them. Like you can't explain that other way. She absolutely believes it's like, oh, no, this is demonic. Aside from the part that Gwen's the one being attacked, Gwen's the one who has information about murdered kids and believes she knows what happened to them. All they need to do is find these bodies to stop what's going on. And everyone else is like, well, listen, this is, I can't necessarily grasp every component of this, but I can't say it's not happening. It happened in front of my face. And Barb's like, well, see, you wouldn't want to be it. Like, my name's Paul, and this is between y'all.
Right. Like, she's quite willing to abandon these children.
Yes. Abandon the dead children, abandon the live children. She makes there's a line in the sand that means something to her, but you so quickly discern the kind of Christian that Scott Derrickson is, because he really wants to point out that you can't call yourself one thing if you don't act like it too. And
it's funny. You know what I couldn't help but think about? Have you seen One Battle After Another yet?
Yes, I have. Yeah.
Okay, so I really found myself attached to Benicio del Toro's character.
Fantastic performance.
He is the best, besides the young girl, Leonardo DiCaprio's daughter, that's at the center of everything.
Yeah.
He is the most purest character who is motivated strictly by the desire to help people.
Yes.
And not to make some sort of statement, or to a certain sense in Leonardo DiCaprio's character, to get laid. I mean,
yes.
that is definitely an aspect of it, at least initially. Mm-hmm. Or to torment people, which is Sean Penn and the Christmas Adventurers motivation. Yes. in their actions, whereas Benicio del Toro is purely to help his community, to help his people. And I felt that there was a lot of, obviously unintentional, but still similarities between that character and Demian Bashir's character.
Yes. 1000%, Gena. God damn, you're good at this. He just views this situation as, well, I came up here to help kids. Here's a kid who needs help. And yeah, this is a bit outside of my normal, duties, but it doesn't matter. This kid needs help. These children who died many years ago need help. If I can do anything to help them, why wouldn't I? And maybe I'm a sucker, but that works for me. It worked for me in One Battle After the Other. It works here. Not that the two films are necessarily comparable 100%.
Well, I think it's, again, a lot of it is, it's impossible to not look at these things through the lens of current events.
True.
And just, being touched by, the decency of people, and, not having everything being racked with cynicism, and realizing that, cynicism is for suckers, you have to want to help people.
Yeah.
And Barb, I mean, her husband's just kind of a nothing of a character. He barely speaks.
Yes.
And again, that's a deliberate choice. Mm-hmm. She is calling the shots and everything, even if he wanted to help, she would shut it down. But there's again, she wants to help, but the help is in quotes, or the help has an asterisk with some restrictions applied.
Yes, yeah.
Whereas Mondo is just like, you need help, I'm going to help you. I don't care if you're coming in with with a potty mouth. I don't care what your background is. I don't care when the last time you went to church. You need help, I'm going to help you.
Yeah.
And it is in these dark times that we are living in, and I'm sure there are plenty of Mondos out there, but it is good to see one portrayed in a film and not have it be like, get a look at this sucker. He, all he's going to do is get taken advantage of.
Yes. It's heartwarming in what is otherwise a very icy cold movie.
Yeah, what I think is interesting, it's a surprisingly wholesome, at times movie. Despite the gruesome violence at the beginning of it, it's very much about the power of family. It's very much about the power of friendship. It's very much about the power of forgiveness, and so there's a lot of very, very wholesome aspects to it.
I think that is at a core something that people are either on board for when it comes to Cargill and Derrickson, or it just rubs them the wrong way. And I would say I bounced early on in some of these films where maybe those attempts did not work as well for me as some of these later films have. But I do think they are rather dedicated to not worrying about being cringe or considered, being too emotionally manipulative simply because they want to invest emotion into this. I think their films benefit from the emotional connections you make with characters. And I think it goes a long way. We certainly have had, and this is a popcorn horror movie, but I think it works to a degree the way the best horror films of 2025 have. They have invested emotion. Sometimes you didn't expect them to have that, like let's say Final Destination Bloodlines,
or Frankenstein,
or Frankenstein. Sometimes they come out of left field because you're not really sure where to invest those emotions, like something like Weapons, or something like Sinners, which very much also wears its heart on its sleeve. And the more you give over to it, the more payoff you get as it goes down the line.
Right.
The emotional connection you develop in Heart Eyes to that main couple is something that most slashers don't ever worry about. And it does, because it's blending those two worlds together. And that, I don't need it in every horror movie, but when it's successful on both those, when you get both a good horror movie and a good emotional investment, I just think it all works together a little bit better.
I mean, I don't know, like if you're not going to take the time, if you're not going to take the time to make me care about these characters, you're just wasting my fucking time.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, I just, make me care about these people.
Yeah.
It's like, make it worth my hour and 45 minutes to want to find out what happens to these characters.
And since we were spending January talking about these snowy, frigid movies, and not that they're a lot alike, but just to compare it ever so briefly with our conversation last week about Ghost Story, where you could give a fuck about almost any character in that entire movie, even though I'm more, and you are more emotionally invested in that story than the average person who just would click on it and turn it on or walk into a movie theater and pay for a ticket because we had read that book. Like, those characters mean something to me. And then they made a movie where they're like, well, fuck what you liked about the book. Also, why would you care about any of these assholes? And then you're like, why did I watch this movie? Just to see a floppy dick hit a pool deck?
Right. And there are certain aspects like, it's sad to see an old man crying and having nightmares and all, but it's like, you got to give me a little more than that.
Right. Yes. It sort of assumes that you'll like them in Ghost Story and never really bothers to give you a reason to care about anybody outside of, oh, look, there's that movie star I've seen before. I think it's really, they thought to themselves, we're going to ride our coattails on familiarity. And something like this, a sequel to a well-regarded and a movie that did very well, that didn't necessarily call out for a sequel, you can sort of smell the, oh, this is a money grab in the air. But in my estimation, the end result did not feel to me like a money grab at all. It felt like, no, we have more to say. There is something interesting to these characters. And I know it bounced for you, but to me, like, the lore amplification was something I got on board with.
I didn't hate it.
I didn't accuse you of hating it. It's fine plus for Gena Raymond.
I thought it was a little longer than it needed to be. I thought.
Sure.
And again, it felt a little workshoppy in places.
Sure.
But I do think that it also compensated in these very richly drawn characters that I believed in.
Yeah.
Also, I love the fact that Finney was watching Night Flight.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Whereas I do think that the Black Phone did a little more to establish time and place. Mm-hmm. Being that it was like, the late 70s. And I guess it's supposed to be 3 years later. So this would be like
the first one's 78 because it's the same year as Halloween. And this is 4 years later. So it's 82.
So this is 82. Okay. So, but at the same time, most of it takes place in this wintertime camp.
Right.
Where I guess you send your children if you hate them.
This Christian camper, go spend Christmas somewhere else.
Out in the middle of nowhere. I think in a way, it removes them from any sense of time and place.
True.
And makes a little more, a little more unsettling.
Well, we're not for lack of, hey kids, remember the 80s movies.
But also I think the last time we get any real, cultural pinpoint is when Finney ends up, hitching a ride with Ernesto because he's driving Wen to the camp and he's listening to Another Brick in the Wall.
Yeah.
Which again, very accurate. It's very accurate to the time
I can
period.
say this from personal experience. Not that I ever listened to Pink Floyd's also another thing that I just anathema to. And then I'm listening to it and I go, am I enjoying Pink Floyd?
Because it felt right.
Yes.
Like you could tell that this was made by people who were about Finn's age when this movie takes place.
Yes.
Like none of it really feels false.
There's only one moment that felt truly false for me. And that is the idea of smoking weed and then doing physical exercise. I can tell you right now, it's not something I do at any point. That is not an active drug for me. That is okay, I'm enjoying this. This is amplifying my enjoyment of Saturday Night Live. Now it's time for sleeps.
That's a falling asleep with a slice of pizza in my hand.
Exactamundo. So there's just an element of it that feels very apiece. Like they just know the characters. They know their limits. They know their wants. They know their needs. And they found a pair of young actors who don't read false on screen at any point. And that's pretty lucky on their part because not every franchise, whether it be on TV or movies, I'm looking at something called Stranger Things, that the aged up cast retains what made them interesting to begin with. Sometimes you become a different person and the characters don't transform that much. They don't adapt towards what that actor became. And I do think Cargill and Derrickson really lean into these actors and who they are and are able to maintain an emotional through line for them.
Oh yeah, definitely. Like again, to not to belabor a point, they genuinely care about these characters, and it really comes through.
Yeah, it's just a very winning formula as far as that is concerned. And then you have the push and pull here of siblings who obviously love each other and love each other to an immense degree, and we've seen that in the past. But now are at different ages, different emotional needs. Finn is obviously drifting, and to a degree, he is very resentful, rightly so, of his father and his actions. But like so many of us, you find yourself drifting into the same ditch that you chided your parents for driving into. And
Right.
for him, weed is the coping mechanism that just allows him to not think, when just admitting that this has affected him is what he needs to get past it.
Right. And it also very much tracks that in 1982, there would be no offering of therapy or anything. It would be just like, oh, you survive, you're fine.
Yeah. The school seems to be, despite the fact that Finn now seems to be the one pounding people into submission for nothing other than identifying him as the kid who killed the grandma, which I'm sure would get very annoying after a while. But he's made it a point to become the biggest dick on the block. And it hasn't brought him a moment of solace. He thinks he's in control. He's out of control.
I do wonder about their dad's wisdom of just keeping them in the same town.
It's a wild choice. It really is.
I realize that they don't look like they have a lot of money, but just pack your shit up and move your kids to another town. Don't keep them in the same town where one of them almost got kidnapped and almost killed by a serial killer.
There's a bit of selfishness still to that character, and I think it comes from, I don't want to have to struggle to find a new job, which was not, in that particular period, you're talking about an economic downturn. So maybe not, he doesn't have the ability to go anywhere else, but also he's found a support system to keep sober, and not wanting to fuck with that is important to him. But he doesn't communicate any of that to his children. Why would he? It's 1982. You don't do those things.
Right. I mean, you talk to a Generation X kid, you'll have a story about, you'll hear a story about how they never saw their father cry until they were 18.
Exactly. Not really something that happens. But we do see, though, in that father character, although he's maintained that haircut, I guess Jeremy Davies just, when you bring him on, he's like, this is the hair I have.
He always looks like he's playing like the weed guy.
Yes. Exactly.
Like no matter what year it is, no matter what his character is doing, he looks like he's going to show up at your door to bring you some weed.
Yes. He's got an eighth, and he just wants to talk to you about the Matrix a little while he hands it to you. And so we do see him. The movie alludes to him having a struggle. It's not really a struggle. It's I actually need to ask for help. And he does. And then he puts his help into action. He gets a plow from his job and goes up to get his kids. It's really when he gets up there and he's like, hey, I'm just driving you away from this problem. And they're like, you can drive us anywhere you want. The problem remains that this is not an issue that you can drive us away from. We actually have to confront the problem. And he couldn't do that in the first movie. And he actually is able to stand up for his kids here. He then gets to put those words into action. And you're like, growth, baby, growth.
Right. And then the reveal, what I did like about Liz, I didn't care for the reveal that the grabber actually killed Finney and Gwen's mother.
Yeah.
And evidently staged it to look like a suicide. But I did like the moment at the end when Gwen tells her father what really happened. And, that basically he has, he can let his own torment go.
Yeah.
Because he was not responsible. He did not drive her into suicide, which is what he had apparently, that was part of the guilt that he had been living with.
Yes.
Because he never accepted her premonitions or any of the same gifts that Gwen has now.
And I think he has to accept the reality of the situation, which is what many addicts have to come to, that they can only affect what they can affect, instead of wishing for magical things to happen that would just erase those components from their lives. That's not something that's going away. Your emotional needs that drove you towards those addicting behaviors aren't going to disappear. It's your reaction to them is the thing that you can affect and change. And it is nice that they included that in there. I will agree with you. I think this is a bit of a shaggy dog. I think their heart's in the right place in that they want to make sure that the emotional underpinnings of these characters are served. I do think they're on occasion repeated. Maybe the third time you don't need, just the two, or maybe even the one. But I do think it's in service of the emotional component of each character that those actions are taken. And as a result, the cumulative effect for me took hold. And I don't think they overstay their welcome in this horror movies about trauma, which has become one of those things that people will stomp their feet about and not realize that, sadly, for all of us, all of our favorite horror movies are deep down about trauma.
Right. And I mean, and trauma, to a certain extent informs even in just a small way, every single one of our lives.
Yeah.
And you may be in denial about how much it affects you. You may be in denial of what constitutes a traumatic experience. But, as overplayed as trauma is as a motivating factor in movies, I mean, it is, we're all carrying some.
Nobody does selling better than Shopify. Shopify is the home of the #1 checkout on the planet. And the not-so-secret secret, with Shop Pay that boosts conversions up to 50%, meaning way less carts go abandoned and way more sales going through. So if you're into growing your business, your commerce platform better be ready to sell wherever your customers are scrolling or strolling. On the web, in your store, in their feed, and everywhere in between. Businesses that sell more, sell on Shopify. Upgrade your business and get the same checkout that Skims uses. Sign up for your $1 per month trial period for 3 months at shopify.com/Westwood1, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/Westwood1 to upgrade your selling today. Shopify.com/Westwood1.
The other component I know probably deep down, right? If I sat Ollie down to watch this movie and he saw a guy in a devil mask with his weird skeleton feet, ice skating on Hell's Frozen Over ice skates attached to those skeleton feet, he's going to go, the fuck is this? And then I would go, but that's a reference to curtains, 1982's Canucksploitation curtains.
I thought so. That like slow motion skating.
Oh, yeah.
I thought that was a nod to that.
It's absolute. He's skating in the same manner. So it's 1000%. And he has a scythe that he ends up, buried in someone's chest. So like that's what they're doing. But that's for oldies. that's for mature audiences like ourselves. Whereas I think someone else might go, I'm not really sure I came to a Black Phone movie to watch a ghost ice skate. And for them, I'm like, oh, okay. You know what? I don't know what to do about that. You're either on board for some of the shit or you're not. But I can reasonably see that and someone go, that was just a bridge too far for me. And I'm like, okay, I saw that bridge, but I went over it just fine.
I feel like that was, an image that came to one of them in a dream.
Yeah.
And I mean this completely sincerely. And so this is so weird and spooky. I got to figure out a way to incorporate this.
Curtains is one of those movies that I've bounced on and off the schedule with because of availability. I do have like an ancient Blu-ray of it, but it's come in and out of availability. And then just recently, I think it was on a Joe Bob Shudder broadcast. So all of a sudden, a lot more people know about Curtains, which is good because it's a fun, interesting movie that we should absolutely cover one day. And it was originally on this. It just Snowy got a little crowded. Snowy is actually crossing over into our February just because it has to.
Well, I mean, that's okay because I mean, it's still going to be cold here.
That's true. It's still going to be the dead of winter. Of course, we did start January with the coldest movie ever recorded, Blood Beach. And I think that's one that people have to listen to. But I don't know you have to have watched that movie, because why would you?
I just, you don't have to watch it, but you do have to listen to it so you can hear Patrick say sit on and span, bitch.
Yeah, I mean, wow, we do get mean in that particular episode, but that movie has it coming. And this movie has its flowers coming as far as I'm concerned. I really felt overall that I enjoyed the emotional through line of it. I really enjoyed the special effects nature of it. Despite how you just know how much of this was on a fucking studio set, that no snow exists through half of this, that they're, green screen behind whatever they're working on and stuff like that. And I'm not coming to this for fucking realism. That being said, there's so much of that stuff that people have trying to do a version of the Nightmare on Elm Street on being attacked by an invisible man sort of situation. And this and 2020's Invisible Man are the two incidents where I think it fucking works.
Yeah, no, that kitchen scene is very well done.
It's just pretty fucking stunning. And because they had those other dreams, and they do this trick where they go back to the sinister 16 millimeter camera for the dreams. And it's kind of like, it's evoking, like, hey, remember this? We're going to kind of use it in a different way. And I was just like, ooh, I like returning to this motif and giving it a different spin. I like returning to the idea of I can be attacked. I have to stay awake and no one can really stay awake forever to stay alive thing, but it's slightly different. We never get something as poorly rendered as a wizard fight in a hallway, or let's fight an invisible man in a sensual dojo. Where they just ran out of money and ideas. I don't think money and ideas were ever a problem here, and it shows.
No.
And if they ever return to this franchise with these characters, without these characters, they can go the dreaded prequel route. I don't fucking know. But I do think there is a lore mechanic here that you could get away with coming back to it. There is you've closed the door. There's this new window that you can open up to it. At least they tried something. And I think that goes for, once again, all of the best movies that we can name collectively and individually about this 2025 cinema. When you go out there, you better see you try something.
Right. Make an effort, make me care about these characters. And I think that's, that is the common thread. And, this is, half of, when we did our episode on the new Final Destination, we kept emphasizing, wow, this is the first one that makes you care about these characters. And look how much better it made the movie.
Yes, it was our evaluation of Saw X, where suddenly, if you care about what's happening, about who's being affected, and it has emotional ramifications that you kind of get behind, all of a sudden it goes from this exercise into something that has emotional stakes. That I don't need it in every movie, but I do feel to a certain degree that I'm very over the collection of assholes getting knocked off one by one.
Right.
I've seen the best versions of that.
Right. Exactly.
It's not something that is an automatic endorsement of something. And it just doesn't do it for me anymore. I obviously did
because you've seen what can be done with the genre.
Sure. Yes, absolutely. It's the one lesson people like never quite take away from Halloween, that you do kind of have to care about those people. You don't have to care about everyone, but there has to be a core.
You care about Laurie. I mean, you certainly like Annie and everybody else. You know, you want to call her Tina. It's not Tina.
It's not Tina, but yes.
The rest of them are all Tina. They're always Tina. So many Tinas.
So many Tinas.
But yeah, I mean, yeah, they took the extra step.
Yeah.
You know, and it shouldn't be that difficult, but yet it seems to be that difficult.
Yes. I think people have a very narrow view of what this kind of movie sort of has to fit into. And I think the original zags in its own way, and this one zags in a different way. But the core that works for both of them is you care about the people who are involved. There is an emotional tie. It's enriched here. And from that standpoint, I actually liked it a little bit more. And I liked the first one quite a bit. It's one of those things that I like out of Derrickson. And I sure hope that he gets to continue. This made money, so it's not like he's in director's jail. So it was a $30 million budget. It got back $132 million, which is, I have to assume, what the kind of returns they wanted out of an October release. They sort of benefited from having the Halloween sort of era all to themselves. And I think other people were a little afraid of the coattails of Black Phone to kind of get in its way. And it's to their benefit. I wanted to see the movie in theaters, but October was so busy that there was just no way that was going to happen. And so when I did watch it here, I'm like, oh, I'm pissed. I just rented this. I want to own. This is quite a good film.
You didn't see it in the theater?
I did not see it in the theater. I had the ticket, but no, we got a gig last minute. And so I had to let that go. And I'm like, oh, this will be my opportunity in November. And then by the time we got to November, my life is all teen volleyball right now, Gena.
Teen volleyball
and academics. And, and then just trying to get work and blah, blah, blah. Like it overtook my life a little bit. I'm very happy that we caught up with it because I found it to be a very fulfilling experience.
Yeah, no, I did like it. I appreciate that a lot of effort and a lot of emotion goes into that. Because to me, that just lifts up, call it elevated horror, call it whatever the fuck you want. Yeah. I don't care. But it just makes it a better experience for me. And while I'm not going to say I liked it as much as Sinners and Weapons.
No,
I will say that it goes in. I would say it leans towards that as far as time taken in developing the characters and investing the audience in, making sure at least some of these characters make it to the end of the movie alive.
Yeah. It's just overall quite a good year for horror in a lot of different aspects. And, I haven't seen everything yet. Obviously, Five Nights at Freddy's 2, big on my list. So everyone now knows what I think about the first one. One of these days I'll corner Oliver to revisit the sequel. We'll see what happens with that. But that won't be today, because what we have to do right now is choose our own death venture. And that's where we decide, of the deaths that occur on screen, if you were forced to die in one of those ways, what would it be and why? Up for bid, we have stabbed multiple times in the woods at night, hacked apart with a hatchet, then roasted on a fire, drive off the road in a snowstorm, get your face cleaved in two, or have your suicide faked hung in a garage. Gena, I choose you to go first.
Oh my God, I don't like any of those. I guess gonna take fake suicide in the garage.
Okay. Yeah.
Because I don't know. Listen, that's like, if you're bitching that there's not enough like killing in this, I mean, those should have satisfied your quota.
Right. Yes. And they're not belabored. We see much more of the after effects than the
right. And again, like in the first Black Phone, there is not many on-screen deaths. No. I think the two are the brother and the grabber.
Yes.
And I think that's about it.
Yeah, pretty much. There might be one other that's a flashback, but yeah, absolutely. And yeah, this has a low body count, but listen, I don't think it would be fun. But the face cleaved in two thing is too fucking good. Like,
I mean, it is good, but it's gruesome.
It is gruesome. And they managed to accomplish it in a very realistic, practical way. And I know there's CGI involved in it, but they managed to blend those things really, really well. I just don't like to be hung. I don't like to be asphyxiated. Okay. There's one element of this we actually did not get to now that we've had our fun. But someone who starred in the first one and does a cameo here, James Ransone. At the time that we're taping this, we learned this afternoon that unfortunately it appears that he has taken his own life. And we simply want to say to everyone that, once again, as these weird disembodied voices who reach out to you via the internet, the world is better off with you in it. And we both know the types of things that lead people to view taking one's life as an understandable outlet. But we very much would like you to stick around. And if that means reaching out to somebody, if that means, we are available via the internet to at least say hi. We do care about you. We don't know you, but we know you're the kind of person who listens to our voices, and we think you're okay.
Yeah, you're our little family on the internet, and we care about what happens to you. And believe me, I get it more than you could possibly know.
Yeah. And so I'm incredibly saddened of his passing, and hope that his family finds some solace in how much good works he did in the world. We've covered him on It Chapter 2, and both Black Phones. And one of these days we're going to get to Christie, which is a really interesting slasher variant. That's a Thanksgiving movie. So maybe we should cover that some November.
And Sinister.
We haven't even done Sinister.
Speaking of Scott Derrickson.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, maybe this is the year we reinvest in Derrickson. So I just know I can't say everything's going to be all right. I can't even say that about myself. But I can say that we hope that everything is going to be all right. We would like you to steer towards all right rather than the other direction.
Yes.
So don't worry, folks, because for Gena and I, the body count will continue for year 10 of Kill by Kill. For myself and for Gena, bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.
They're all going to laugh at you.
If you like the show, please take a moment to rate, review, and subscribe. It really does help the show to grow. Thank you for listening.